You just found out that the executor is selling off property and you had no idea. What do you do?
Welcome to Gavels Down, Voices Up, where we flip the script on conventional legal discussions. I'm Rachel King, here to guide you through the murky waters of estate conflicts, inheritance disputes, and all of the dramas. We're not just talking about law, we're talking about how it affects your life, your rights, your future, and your money. From the courtroom to your living room, we bring you insights that matter. Dive into each episode ready to challenge, learn, and grow. Ready to change the dialogue. Let's begin. Gavels down, voices up.
My name's Rachel King. I'm a California board certified specialist in probate, trust, and estate planning. And today we're going to get into all of your rights and the duties of the trustee. We're going to talk about that one time that the executor, the trustee, the administrator, personal representative started selling and giving away property, and you had no idea. By the end of today's episode, you're going to know the duties and obligations of that personal representative and your rights when they start going haywire and just cleaning shop. You will know how to stop the bleed, and you will know how to get yourself back in the loop. Today, we're on 15 minutes that's going to bring you the most clarity and hopefully a feeling of empowerment that you can use right now. Ryan called me the other day. His dad had recently passed away, I think like 3 months ago. Dad had 2 children, Ryan and his sister. Dad had a house, all of the things, but pretty small, not a huge estate. So Ryan's surfing Facebook, scrolling as we all do, and up on his algorithm pops a notice for the sale of his dad's house. And then, shortly after that, he starts noticing some things that are showing up on Marketplace that are also looking quite familiar. He hasn't talked to his sister. His sister has started ghosting him. But now, all of a sudden, through social media channels, he's finding out that all of his dad's stuff is just for sale. It's going away, and he has no clue what's going on. He calls me and he's like, WTF, Rachel, what in the world can I do? What is happening? How can she do this? So I'm sitting here listening to him, and he is rightfully totally confused. He's grieving the loss of his dad. He thought he could trust his sister because prior to this, they had a pretty good relationship. He is so lost. He's all of the things, and he never, ever saw this coming. So he's like, what can I do? Confused, angry. You know, you're feeling them too, or you know somebody that has. All Ryan could think is, I destined Rachel to be cut out, to have zero mementos of dad? Like, is there anything I can do, or am I screwed? Because sister was named as the trustee. So in his eyes, he's like, I can't do anything. She gets to have all of the power, all of the control. That is not true, Ryan. So, as the beneficiary or heir, right, even if he wasn't the named beneficiary or a named beneficiary in the trust, simply being the child, he has a right to see all of the documents. He gets to see a copy of the trust. He gets to know what's going on. He gets to be informed. And his sister, as the trustee, has an obligation to follow the law and to give Ryan a copy of the trust, to tell him what's going on. His sister has an obligation to put his rights as a beneficiary above her own rights as a trustee. And yes, sister in this case is also a beneficiary. So she's serving kind of 2 roles. That can be complicated, but she has a duty to Ryan to not waste, to not give away things, to not misappropriate or misuse. She has to do this. In fact, probably the trust says so, but even if the trust doesn't say so, the law says so. So is Ryan sitting over here totally confused, thinking he's just about to get screwed because of everything his sister is doing? I'm saying, no, she can't. He hadn't seen the trust. He didn't know what the assets were. He didn't know that she was selling. All of that is totally not okay. And there are things that Ryan can do about it. Certainly, a phone call is always a place to start, but in this case, Ryan's sister was ghosting him and wasn't responding at all, and the house was already for sale, so it's just a matter of time before an offer is accepted, and then what? Well, I don't always say rush into court, but I can say, and I'll probably say it again, that going after property that's already been disposed of, so the house that's been sold, the mementos and the tangible personal property that's been donated or liquidated through an estate sale, is way harder after the fact than it is to stop. So the sooner we can stop this and get ahead of it, the better. We can do that through court intervention. We can ask that the trustee is temporarily, or the executor or the personal representative is temporarily suspended. We can put a Liz pendens on a house that like clouds the title and makes it very difficult to sell. We can get injunctions. We can have money and bank accounts frozen or deposited into a safe place. There are so many things we can do. And if we do find ourselves in a situation where the trustee or the executor has already disposed of property, we can go in and try and get it back. Or we can ask the court to say, hey, have them post bond, because we're kind of concerned that they're going to get all of this and then take off to Costa Rica and I'm going to be screwed. That was certainly one of Ryan's concerns. It's like, what is my sister up to? I had no idea. So we can get ahead of it. We can go into court, we can explain to the court what's going on, and we can ask the court for immediate temporary orders to stop the bleed while we figure out everything else that's going on. Do we need to remove sister? Is sister maybe not totally aware of what she's doing, but she's selling the house for fair market value, she's keeping everything in order, and ultimately Ryan just didn't know? Well, we need to figure all of that out. And so getting immediate temporary orders gives us an opportunity to find out what is going on. It also has the court coming in and saying, hey, sister, you have to communicate. You don't get to do all of these things on your own. You have to send Ryan a NOPA. I call it a NOPA. It's really a notice of proposed action, and it gives the information specifically, like on a sale of a house. How much is it selling for? What does the purchase contract say? What are the commissions? Because at the end of the day, all of those terms affect how much money the estate is going to get and ultimately how much the beneficiaries are going to get. You are entitled to one of those as a beneficiary. So like I said, it's really, really important to move as fast as possible. If you are in a situation where it's all over or much of it is over, in fact, I had a call from Julie and she said, the house is already sold. I had no idea. I don't even know where the money is. That's okay. We can still go in and figure out what's going on. We can see if we can stop the transfer of funds. We can find out where everything is and we can trace the asset to try and get it back. Whether you just discovered that it's already over or we're kind of at the beginning of the liquidation process, there are steps that can be taken. Don't wait though. And by don't wait, I mean, if you find out on Monday, let's not wait 6 months and be like, oh, now I'll get around to calling an attorney, because the longer and more time that passes, not only is it harder to collect and recover, but it's also going to be a whole lot more expensive. It's easier for me as an attorney to go in and get ahead of it, to take emergency action as soon as we find out about it, than to go back and try and solve and figure out what happened over the last 2 years when the trustee sold the asset, especially if you already knew about it. And then there's like these pesky things in the law that say if you wait too long, you can't do it, right? Latches, statute of limitations, things like that. As soon as you find out, let's not wait. Get yourself in with an attorney, have a consultation, get the information that you're entitled to, whether it's a copy of that trust, that purchase agreement, the list of assets and what their values are. You're entitled to that. So let's get that for you. Let's stop the bleed ASAP. Let's take control of the assets while we figure it out so that we're not chasing them down. All three of those things, we can do all of them. If you have these concerns, pop over to the Lawyer King and, shoot me a message. I'm happy to talk to you about it. Know that you are right to be upset. You're right to be angry, confused, all of the things. But you are not alone. Many, many people are experiencing the exact same thing that you are. And many, many people have figured out a way to get everything that they're entitled to, including information. Go ahead and subscribe so that you get all of the information on next week's episode and you don't miss a beat. If you have a question, I love to answer them. So shoot me a text, find me on the socials. I'm Rachel King. Thank you for watching Gavels Down, Voices Up.
That wraps up another episode of Gavels Down, Voices Up. If you found value in our discussion today, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs these insights.
Your engagement helps us grow and impact more lives. I'm Rachel King, thanking you for listening and reminding you to speak up because every voice deserves to be heard.